Hi, Deneen Shoemaker with your 420 Minute. This week, what I want to talk with you about is pride and vulnerability. And I'm just letting you know I'm not at home. I'm somewhere else, and so I'm just taping in my car today. This is my office. No. And if it's moving a lot, it's because I don't have a stabilizer on it, but we should be good. So there, I was a little bit vulnerable with you and let you know what was going on. So I've kind of been building on a theme over these last few weeks. I talked a few weeks ago about shame and how the Holy Spirit will convict, but shame is really of the enemy and it's not productive and we need to get rid of it. We talked about expectations, how, when you put forth this expectation, many times we get disappointed and it ends up kind of ruining everything. And so I found in my life, it brings me a lot more peace to not have expectations placed on people or, circumstances. And then last week I talked about how difficulty really should be used as a springboard. Now, a springboard into what, right? So the whole reason that I do this is because I believe that I have found the peace that passes all understanding, and I'm trying to help you maybe receive it as well. And so how do we live this out is the thing. And I feel like pride has so much to do with the fearful responses that I see people giving all the time. So that's what I want to talk about. Pride and vulnerability, the difference, and maybe how we can apply it in our life. So just to give you a quick example. Earlier this summer, a few of us, I'll be vulnerable and I'll even let you know who it was. So my daughter and my dearest, oldest, best friend met for dinner one night, and beforehand my daughter asked if her new boyfriend could come. New in that I hadn't really met him yet. So I agreed, even though truthfully I was hoping for time with just her, but I agreed because I would like to get to know this person. So we're at the restaurant, and I had been there. No one else had ever been there. And so he comes in and he's looking at the menu and he's deciding what he wants. And he just speaks right up and he says, "Hey, anybody know what this is?" And so Kelly and I both, we're looking at it. And actually one thing we knew what it was, and the other thing I think we had to Google. And then he ended up ordering the thing that he wasn't sure of. And what I loved about that, why I was so impressed and pleased that this was the young man that my daughter was, choosing, was he was vulnerable in that moment. He wasn't prideful. He could have sat there with his mouth shut, never said a word, and what would he have done? He would have missed out on experiencing a meal that he really liked, And I was really thrilled and impressed. So one more quick example would be, and this one really comes from Brené Brown. She's a researcher, a huge inspiration to me. Look up any of her videos. Any of them are great. But she also talks extensively about vulnerability because it's a subject that she's researched. And she talks about going into a meeting at work, for instance. And how many times have you sat in a meeting and not known what the hell they were even talking about? Did you have vulnerability to speak up and say, "Hey, this sounds great. I'm glad everybody's going for it and is really enthused. I have no idea what's going on"? Or did you let pride get the best of you and not say anything? And her point is that those of us who are willing and able to be authentic and vulnerable have the most abundant living. I don't know if those are her words. Those are really Jesus' words. I think there's a tie-in. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. Jesus had pretty strong words about pride. And so maybe next time you find yourself backed into a corner and you're feeling like you want to respond out of pride, choose vulnerability instead of fear and pride. It's my thought for you today. If you want any subject references, I'd go to the book of Matthew. There's lots of instances where Jesus really dresses down the Pharisees and the religious leaders because of their pride. Chapter 23 is coming to mind in particular. So if this message has been helpful, like, share, please. Maybe share it with a friend who could use this message. Thanks for tuning in. Remember to live your best life now, because this ain't no dress rehearsal. Grace and peace.